Hello and welcome to the Video Creator Show, where we talk the juicy details of how to succeed on YouTube. And what better way to do that than to talk directly to someone who has done it? Mark Wolters of Wolters World has and is traveling the world and telling you all the do's and don'ts. Wolters World gives honest, first-hand travel advice to help fellow travelers get the most out of their travel experience. They discuss the best and worst parts of traveling so that you can be better prepared for your vacation in a way that helps you know more about the culture and people of the city, country, or region you are going to visit. Their website is woltersworld.com, where there are travel guides, tips, and so much more. Today, I'll be speaking with Mark about him and his family have been able to build a YouTube channel to over 900,000 subscribers and over 200 million total channel views. But first, the Video Creator Show is brought to you by VidChops.com, an editing service that helps take the burden of editing off your back. Check out VidChops.com to see how you can save yourself tons of time and energy while bringing your YouTube channel to the next level. Mark, how you doing today?
Hey, Grant. Thanks for having me on. I'm doing quite well, my friend.
That's what I like to hear. So, obviously, the first thing I noticed about your channel, you have been to so many places. I think this is like the romanticized version of being a YouTuber in a way. You kind of travel the world, you have found a way to monetize it. And also the way your videos are put together is kind of ingenious to me. So, for those who may not have seen these videos yet, most of it is you'll just kind of speak to the camera about what you know about a country, what you've learned about it from traveling there or even living there for a period of time. And, you'll kind of cut to footage that you've seen, but a lot of it is just kind of you talking to the camera. And it seems like there's a simplicity to your videos that I appreciate, and I'm sure you or your editor appreciates. So it seems like you've kind of streamlined the process for making these videos while still delivering information that is really useful. Was that by design, or is that just kind of how it happened?
Well, it actually started out that I had no idea how to edit videos, so I would do everything in one take. So I kind of trained myself on literally putting the old Nikon Coolpix. That's how long ago I started doing this. I would put the Nikon Coolpix on a rock and then do the whole little spiel with my notes in my hand and everything. And so since I didn't know how to edit, I would just film it all and then upload it. And then eventually I learned that you can actually edit videos and put the B-roll over top. And that's when things got a little bit more complicated and fun to watch. But the whole idea of doing it in one take really has stayed with me because I didn't want to waste time. And then when I was editing the videos, it was so much easier to have that one file where I have all my talking on there. And then I could just put stuff in there. Whereas if I had it in 30 different shots, then it's like, which one was supposed to go there? It just made it more complicated. That took a lot more time. So this helped me simplify it. And also what I want to do with my videos is look, I want to give the information, I can show me or my kids or my wife, whatever, us doing fun stuff, but let's talk at the same time because I know people don't always have a lot of time to do a lot of research on a vacation because you know what, you're working 9 to 5, 9 to 7 maybe, and you only got 30 minutes at night to watch a few videos. I want to get right to the point, so I'll talk through and throw over the B-roll over on top. So it kind of started off because I didn't know what I was doing, and then over time, it just made my life easier for the editing. And yes, my editing team, they do appreciate those a lot more as well.
Yeah, some of the advice I always give to people is try to do everything in one take. And for some people, that can be really hard. I'd say even for most people, actually. I'm impressed that was your first thing that you wanted to do. I think that's scary to a lot of people. But ultimately, what ends up happening is you kind of end up speaking from your intuition, from your heart. And I think ultimately you end up getting better takes. Maybe you could refilm one part 7 times, and maybe that one time you would get a slightly better take than you would have. But in the long run, if you get used to doing that, I think you're going to find, like anybody listening, is that it's going to be better for your videos overall. It's going to streamline your process. And overall, I think you're going to get more comfortable on camera more quickly. So I think that was kind of a genius move, even if it was just sort of to make things easier. And props to you for being able to do that initially.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's very nice of you. Very nice of you. No, but
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody's doing their own YouTube channel, this is one thing. Whenever you're doing a YouTube channel by yourself and you're doing the filming and you're doing the editing, you start to learn, like, why did I do that? You know, like whenever I have other people film with us, you know, I'm trying to explain, like, look, let's get this done in one go. And they're like, oh, we'll come back and cut that. We'll come back and let's redo this. And I'm like, look, it's one, if you're 80% of the way there, you're going to be okay, right? And we can put some B-roll over top. But it was funny, like, it will take twice as long when people think, oh, I can just cut that out. I can just cut that out. I can just cut that out. Whereas if you just go all the way through and, like, just feel comfortable, you're like, hey, it's okay. It was a really big mistake. We can edit it out. But honestly, you end up not wasting time, but you end up spending so much time trying to cut out every little hiccup you have. Sometimes you just leave the hiccups in. I know one of our hiccups, the first video we ever had that really went like viral was the 5 love and hates of going to Germany. Now, it never did get millions of views. I think it's only got like 500,000 views right now, but it's, 12, 13 years old. And I was filming and I'm sitting on the ground and my son comes walking up. He was like 3 and he just grabs the camera and runs off and he's like laughing like hysterically like a maniac. You're like, the devil has possessed him. But it was so funny because I got it back from him. He's laughing. But I'm like, I'm not going to refilm this. So I just put it back down and he laughed right off and then I finished the video. But that was one thing people were like, oh, that was kind of funny. And it wasn't like a playing thing, but I'm really glad I didn't know how to edit because that really, I think, humanized us in the eyes of a lot of viewers. Like, oh, this is really some dude that's just walking around with his family making these videos and not someone that's like all planned out with a camera crew and a director and all this kind of stuff. And that kind of helped me feel more comfortable with it. I'm like, hey, people are okay if, real life happens. Because here's one thing people need to realize. If you're doing YouTube stuff, you're not a movie theater. You don't have to be that perfect cut angle. I mean, it looks cool, but is it worth that time and effort when you're the one doing everything? So.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for real. So I'm curious of your initial motivations with starting this channel. When you made your first video, were you just trying to share information? Did you think that this would turn into a business of any kind? Like, what was going through your head?
So my first few sets of videos, I was teaching in Portugal. I was living in Portugal. And my fiance, who's my wife now, she was moving to Portugal. And so I was like, well, I want her to learn about where we're going to live and where we're going to be, but also she needs to learn some Portuguese. So I started making these like learning Portuguese videos. So like when it was like the food vocabulary, I went to the market by her house that she's going to show. So she felt more comfortable. Oh, I know that market. I know the food. And so I went through like a whole book of like learning Portuguese for her, like in little parts so she could learn that. But at the same time, I was teaching, and I was teaching it in English. I was teaching a business course. And my students spoke very good English, but there were some students that had a hard time. And so I started making summary videos for the business topics for the exams. So then the students were like, look, you maybe didn't understand all my English when I was talking because I speak really fast, but I want to make sure you learn the material. So I started making summary videos for the business content as well. So I was making those too. And so that's where it kind of started out as, right? Like just trying to help out my wife and help out my students. And I mean, we didn't get monetized for like 4 years on YouTube. There was never really something we really thought about because it was just having a fun time doing it. I liked doing it. I remember my wife, right before we got monetized, she's like, we were getting ready to go on a trip. She's like, oh, I can make all those videos again. And then we got monetized and I'm like, yes, I am. So I was like, hey, that's kind of cool. And it's funny, for those of you that are out there listening, realize it takes time. Like the viral sensation stuff, even if you have a video that does really well, one, is not going to like pay the bills forever. You got to have consistency and have a lot of things. And so over time, you build up your content. You have stuff that's for people to watch, to go back to, and that helps you keep going. And it's been kind of interesting to see, like, even some of those old videos still get watched occasionally. But just know that it takes time. It's not an overnight thing. And like I said, 4 years for us to get monetized. And now when it started monetization, it was like, we got $50 a month. I was like, oh, we can go out to dinner together. And then after, a few months, after a year or so, it was like, oh, it's $150 a month. Now we can go get groceries, and it built up. Now it can pay our car payment. Oh, now it can pay our mortgage. And it took time. It wasn't overnight. Like people ask, hey, when did you really start making money where you felt like you were actually helping yourself? It was worth the time. And I was like, it probably wasn't until 2016 we were making money that was like, we were like, oh, hey, this is something that's a viable thing. It's not just a hobby anymore, And I think that's one thing people need to realize is it's not an overnight thing. It took us. I mean, we started in 2009, and that's 2016 where it was like actually like, above the poverty line basically, And I think people need to realize that. That's why I say it's like if you can have multiple revenue streams, do multiple things, that's going to help. But yeah, I'm just
Absolutely.
trying to share too much
So
information. I'm sorry.
no, it's great. You make my job easier. So, when it comes to revenue streams, that was one thing I always like to talk about. So, you have a website, you have courses, you have ads on your YouTube channel, of course. Can you talk about your revenue streams? Kind of what is the biggest revenue stream that, if you were comfortable talking about these things?
Yeah, no, my biggest revenue stream is AdSense for the ads on YouTube. Because here's the thing, everyone says you can get brand deals, and brand deals really are like that's where there's really big money. That's why you'll see people that'll focus on TikTok, which doesn't pay creators very much, but the brand deals they get make it worthwhile. And since we always focus on honest travel advice and not, taking money to say this is the greatest city in Mexico, and then 3 weeks later do another video for another city in Mexico saying this is the greatest city in Mexico, we're like, no, like we don't want to sell out on those things. Brands were never really super wanting to work with us. Because I'm like, look, I would gladly talk about your product, but it's going to be the good and the bad. Like, it's got to be an honest review. And a lot of companies were like, well, they didn't want a review; they wanted a commercial. I'm like, well, commercial's a different thing, And that kind of got one of those things. I'm like, look, I want to stay more independent. So we never had really the brand deals, okay? Which is I know we left a lot of money on the table, but at least I feel better and I don't feel pressured to my honest, because my whole thing is honesty. I want to help people, and I don't want them to worry that, oh, did Mark get paid by these people to say something nice? And so that's why whenever I do work with brands, I tell them, like, look, I'm going to be 100% honest. I'm going to tell the good and the bad, because I'm not going to ruin our reputation and our good name for helping people because you paid us some money. That's just not what we wanted to do. So that revenue stream is the biggest one we do not have. Okay. Now, after the AdSense stuff, then we have multiple channels that bring that in. Then we have multiple websites. And on our websites, we have, the ads that are on there that brings in things. And then we do have some courses, which don't really bring much in. It was fun. It was more of a fun thing to do, but it's nothing. It's something that the amount of work that goes into it, I would want to do it a little differently next time. I like how the hosting goes and how it's done. And then I have a day job still too. Like I'm a university professor, so like that's where like I have that job. So there's your insurance and retirement right there. So that makes it a little bit easier that I don't have to sacrifice my integrity for brand deals because I got to pay the bills, and that's why I don't fault any creator for having to do a NordVPN ad or some like the video games on the phone, like, oh, the newest app, Crazy Nation 1000. I understand why they do that because they got to pay their bills. So I understand those things. I've just been lucky enough that we haven't had to do that. And then another thing I've found, and this is one that hasn't come from the Wolters World stuff. It's actually come from our Professor Wolters channel, where I put marketing and social media training videos out for that. Stuff I teach in my day job, and I've been making those videos since like before I was a PhD student. Like we're talking in the early mid 2000s. And people found me from there, and I've been hired by companies and governments to make videos for them, like training videos. So that's been a nice, and there's not a lot, but you'll do 2 or 3 a year, and it's kind of fun because then it's like you're back on the professional side, and those ones, they have a more set kind of thing what they're looking for. Like, hey, I did a training, social media marketing for businesses, and it was like a video series to kind of help them along the way if they wanted to enter into the U.S. market or another country's market. So that was kind of a fun thing. It was nice, it was a nice little help out on the pocketbook as well. And those are things I like doing. Like when companies reach out, like, hey, we want you to teach, we want you to help our people. I'm like, this is perfect. That's a perfect kind of like one-off kind of thing. I get to help them, and it gets to share information and help them out. So that's one thing I've really liked, because all of our channels, I really like helping people. That's like the big driving force behind all what we do.
That's awesome. And I am glad you mentioned having a day job and kind of the benefits of that in regards to YouTube. As somebody who was full-time YouTube for 5 years, there became a pressure to monetize it as much as possible. And I think that can end up hurting your brand. It can kind of make you make decisions to pay the rent in the short term that maybe isn't good for your channel in the long term. I think often people get in their heads, there's a romanticization of YouTube where, take your channel, for instance, you're kind of traveling the world. I'm sure people watch your videos and get an idea about what your life is like. They might be surprised that that you have a job, and not just like a job, but, a university professor. That is a real a very real job.
Yeah.
And so I think, like, to some people that sort of breaks the YouTube illusion, where they're like, oh, this guy is, more similar to me than I thought. He's not just, sleeping in hostel beds all day, every day, and drinking beer. And I mean, you're certainly doing that, but it's
Well,
it's
so I
just
do, but wait, there's more.
yeah, there's so much more to it, and I think it can end up making your channel sustainable. Like my channel, Treesicle, one thing I kind of wish I had done is been more willing to have at least some other source of income outside of YouTube while I was doing it close to full time, because I just think some better decisions would have been made. So yeah, I think that's especially with insurance and stuff. Oh my God,
Yeah.
like that's a good move.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when you have, and because we have two kids, and it's like, my wife works for Wolters World, and then it's, I mean, it's just, it's economically, but also I think you were kind of alluding to like a really important thing. Like when you're working YouTube and that's all you have, like your priorities change. Like if you're watching the video of this, I have my, 100,000 subscriber thing. I've got some teaching awards, but on top I've got the best dad ever award from my son, my oldest son, who's a teenager, who definitely wouldn't say that anymore, but that's what teenagers do. But like you almost get sucked too much into that you forget about these things, like your family, your mental health, your physical health kind of things. And that's one of those things that I mean, last year YouTube put out a bunch of stuff on mental health, but then it kind of like poo-pooed it away. Like they stopped talking about it. It's like, okay, we mentioned it, here's some resources for you, and they kind of went away, but don't forget to keep making content. And I think that's the thing, is if YouTube's all you have, or your social media is all you have, it can be really like bad for you sometimes. Like I understand when people are like, hey, creators will take a month off or they'll take 2 weeks off. I'm like, do it. And people are like, well, my audience will be gone. Well, yeah, some will go, but they'll come back. And don't worry. It's like your health is more important than making sure you got another video out. And sometimes when YouTube's your whole job, it's like, yeah, but if I don't put out a video, I'm not feeding my family. So there's a lot of it's the small entrepreneur, like people think YouTubers are YouTubers, but no, YouTubers are entrepreneurs. They're small business owners, and we have a lot of the same stresses that other people do. I mean, I have an editing team, and I know that my editing teams I hire, like if I'm not paying them, they're not eating either. It's like I'm helping out their families get things done, and some other people. You start to think about it. You're like, man, if I take a month off, that's a month that my blog people aren't working, my writers there, my editors aren't working. It's like I don't want them not to be able to pay their bills. So you get all these kind of extra pressure on top of it. So you start thinking about like, wow, there's a lot that goes into it. So
definitely. One thing I really want to talk to you about. You mentioned your editing team, in the team behind your channel, your blog, your entire online presence. Can you walk us through like how your workflow works? You release about 2 videos a week, and you clearly have a lot of staff working for you, or at least a few. So what does that look like? Like getting all of this done on a weekly basis?
So right now, we have Wolters World, which is our main travel channel. We have Wolters World Shorts, where we have the vertical videos and like reviews of hotels and flights and airports. Then we have Wolters World Eats, which is food travel around the world. And we have Professor Wolters, which is my marketing teaching. So we actually put out 5 videos a week minimum. So there's a lot of videos that we're going through. And how it is to prepare for the videos, I do all the research. My wife will do some of the research too for the videos she's in and some other stuff, and we'll discuss. But like I will be researching, people are like, how do you know this stuff? I'm like, well, I'll go through maybe 50 to 100 blogs. I will go through the Lonely Planet books. I will go online and I will go on forums to ask locals, what are things you want to have? I'll talk to our fan bases from different countries, different cities. What are things you wish tourists would know? And I'll get all that information. So I have ideas what I want to do. But then once I get to the location, I'm like, okay, let's see my experience. And so then I take my experience with that, and then I film. So I don't usually film, like I won't film like the Don'ts of Toronto the first day I'm there. It'll be like the 5th or 6th day I'm there after I've experienced more stuff. And I've been to Toronto before a few times, so it's like, okay, now I feel comfortable filming this. Like I was there again 2 weeks ago, and it was literally the morning of my flight, I filmed the Don'ts of Toronto because I wanted to have another 4 full days, night, day, week, because it was during the Thanksgiving break. I was like, I want to have more of an experience to do that. So then I make the videos, And then, you know, and I film all the B-roll and stuff like that. And then it took me a long time. And this is one thing for all creators. It's okay to hire an editor. They're not going to do it perfect. They're never going to be perfect. Just they're not going to see your exact vision, but they can get close to your vision if you work with them. Okay, but it took me years to finally hire someone to help me edit the videos. And I didn't have them put the B-roll over top. I just had them edit the 20-minute video of me talking down to that 15 minutes. So then I would put everything else over the top. And that saved me, you know, 3 hours per video. You know, it's like that really made a big difference, gave me more time with my family. And it was only probably, I don't know, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I finally felt comfortable to let the editing team put the B-roll in. And then after, you know, a year of them doing that, their quality really went to crap. And I had to look for other editing teams. And that's one thing I think people need to realize. If you hire editors or VAs or anything, and they're not doing what they originally did, you should talk to them. If they don't change, then you should fire them and move on. Sometimes you feel uncomfortable doing it, but I mean, they'd made 999 videos they'd cut down for me, and I quit, and I didn't get it like a why did you leave us? I'm like, they're just okay. They don't care about you. You know, that was the thing. And so I moved to another one, and the new ones I have are doing fantastic. And I ended up, 2 of my former editors from that old company, back when they were doing good work for me, they contacted me like as freelancers. So I'm like, oh, so I have a new company that I work with that'll edit my videos. They give me I'll send all the stuff. They'll get it back to me about 3 days. And then I've got my old editors who'll get me a video back like every 3 days as well. And those combined are helping me kind of get caught up with everything. So I'm trying to get it where I have like a month or 2 ahead of the videos uploaded. Like right now I'm trying to get, I mean, we're in November. I've pretty much, except for Wolters World Eats, I have all the videos for the whole month already uploaded. But December is a big month because I want people to like have a lot, because people start really planning their travel. Like literally, it's the day, like the 26th of December, our numbers take off until January 8th. Like, so I know like we gotta have a bunch of stuff for people that want to go. So we're thinking, okay, what do we need to have out there? What are going to be the best videos to help people? You know, and so I'm like trying to think about what ones we need to get so I can line up, hey, I need you to edit this, this, and this first so we can make sure it's there. But at the same time, I'm trying to coordinate the schedule of the blogs that are going to be coming out, and then the videos. And, you know, it's like I have a video that's scheduled for the Don'ts of Toronto that's going to come out on the Shorts channel saying, hey, don't forget to go check out our Don'ts of Toronto video. Click down below. But that one is already ready, but now I have to get the Don'ts of Toronto edited and out. And so the scheduling part of it, I mean, I have so many Excel spreadsheets trying to figure these things out. It gets a little confusing. But I honestly, like, having the editing team really has helped. And what I like, the new editing team I have, they're very good at communication and very good, like, they'll send me where, like, you'll watch the video, I'm like, hey, change this, change that, but it timestamps everything. That makes life so much easier. So that's been really nice. But so there's, like, basically there's 3 editors, because I have 3 different people editing. So there's 3 editors that I've hired. And then there's the one that helps me with my blogs, because she takes my videos that I did and she just basically transcribes them for me and puts that stuff there. So that's very helpful, because I would love to write the blog version of my stuff. Like I have notebook after notebook of my scripts, right? But I'm like, I just don't have the time. And so she's a friend of mine, and she's like, hey, you know, I do that for a living. And I'm like, awesome. So I've hired her. She's helped me for a number of years. Just getting those videos into a blog form, just so it's something there, because our audience was asking, hey, I'm getting in trouble watching your videos during lunch. Could you put it in blog form so then I can like read the blog to get the main points instead? I'm like, okay. So that was because our fans asked for it. We started doing it, you know, so. So that's been very helpful, because that's one thing is, you know, the people that you can help, you don't know, like your friend's cousin, your friend, your niece, like there's so many people out there that are doing these side gigs, these side hustles of VA work. You can find people that can help you out. So, and doesn't have to be super expensive, and you can actually, you know, like with our blog person, she only does like 1 a week, you know, for me. Because I'm like, look, the money side of it gets a bit much. If we do like 10 a month, I'm like, oh, that's a bit high. But like, yeah, 4, okay, that's doable. Like the website will cover the cost of her doing that and to make a little money, you know. So, and that's another thing I think when you're looking at this long term, you know, you got to make sure you can pay your bills.
Yeah, that is important, right?
Yes.
So you mentioned that you have scripts for your videos, but you also do these in one take for the most part. I find like I also will script my videos, but when I do that, I find it hard to do everything in one take because there's so much information. So is your script more of an outline, or do you write out
Yeah.
everything pretty precisely?
Like if you were in a classroom, it would be like a PowerPoint slide. Like
Okay.
it would have like I'll say like the don't. It'll be like don't to Lisbon, and I'll like we the title. Then down there will be like, hey, don't it'll be like the olives and bread aren't free, right? And so I'm like, okay, so then I know the basic story I want to tell with that, so I just make sure I hit the main points in it. And like, no joke, I have one of these gorilla clips and in my book, and I just clip the clip on here, and it hangs on the tripod, and I just look at it that way. That's why if you're looking for watch my videos, occasionally you'll see me glance down to see the next topic I want to talk about.
Smart. All right. I think I'm going to take a page out of your book here. That's a good way to do things.
Yeah.
So I always like to ask people about the kind of before of your channel. So you were teaching in Portugal. I'm guessing you've kind of always been somebody who liked traveling. Was this something that ramped up after YouTube, or did you kind of stay consistent with your amount of traveling?
Well, I was exchange student twice in high school, and I was exchange student twice in college, and I did my master's and PhD abroad. I taught in Lithuania for 3.5 years. I taught in Brazil. Then it was, it was like the last financial crisis in 0809, when it finally got to Portugal about 2011, my boss there was like, dude, if you get back to the US, get back. And so I applied for a job, so I ended up teaching here. And even though with Wolters World, it's funny, like we still traveled a lot. Like I traveled all the time. And it's funny because I remember when I was studying in Finland years ago, it's like before the internet, or like the internet was really new. People were like, do you write down your stories? Like, do you have a journal about all the things you're traveling and seeing? And I'm like, I would never, I don't want to do that. Wow, no, who would want to read that? Who'd want to watch that? And now I'm like, you stupid. If you would have started that, because I literally could have started doing this when the internet first came out. That'd be a whole different, it'd be crazy. But that was the thing, is it was like, oh, and so earlier you asked, did you ever see this happening? I never saw this happening. Like literally, I made the videos. It was more of a hobby. It still is more of a hobby for fun. Like some people, like they play golf. Some people say, well, you spend all that time doing that. Well, I'm like, you're wasting your time making all these videos. I'm like, why? You go play golf for 6 hours. I make videos for like 3 hours. I'm happy. It's something to do, especially if I make videos where we've been to a place a lot of times. So like I'll have part of the videos, like our youngest is 11. Like I'm doing a video, I'm editing a video on Paris, because sometimes I still edit my own videos. And this Paris one, I've got like Liam, who's 11. He's learning how to walk in Paris. So I have him like walking around the corner, and then I'm like, wait, I gotta find something. And then he's like, he turns the corner, and then there's him at like 5 in Paris, the same shot. And then there's another one from last year where he's 10. You're like, yes, and you're like, oh, everybody was so little. It's people are like, oh my god, your kids have grown up. I'm like, yeah, we've been on here for a while. So it's kind of fun that way.
Yeah. So your main video type, it seems like it's kind of the don'ts of visiting blank, the don'ts of visiting Finland. How did you come upon that? Like it's kind of, obviously it's the opposite of the do's of visiting Italy or whatever. Like, how did you come upon that? Why the don'ts instead of the do's?
So when I first started, and this is why I recommend a lot of people when they start doing YouTube, like try whatever. Just try whatever you like and see what sticks, because it's your audience that you have to realize they're the ones going to watch, not you. Okay, you got to be okay making it, but it's got to be something people are going to watch. And when I first made our first 5 love and hates of going to a travel destination, it was a Portugal one, and it was like our videos got like a couple hundred views, but that one got a few thousand views. I'm like, oh, hey. This is also 2009. We're talking a long time ago. And so that was a big deal. I'm like, oh, hey, what resonated with them? And I read through the comments. It was really like, hey, you're the first person that's telling about the good and the bad, not making every city sound like the greatest thing ever. It's the next Paris. It's the new Venice, the Venice of the North. There's so many Venices. The Venice of the North, the Venice of the South, the Venice of the East, the Venice of the North. You're like, come on. There's only one Venice, people. One, all right? And so that was the beginning of the truthful stuff. And then as we went, we started doing these like culture shock videos, which was like more of a fun side of shocking things. But then I realized that one of the things people were always wondering about, they want to know what not to do so they don't offend people or they don't get in trouble, or a safety thing. And it's the internet. So if you have a negative topic, people tend to click on that. And when I was doing like the top 10 things to see or what to see when you go places, no one ever watched those videos. Like literally, like nobody. Like there was no point in me making it, because there would be 0 views. Not 0 views, but like basically no views. And so I kind of thought, I was like, well, what if we do like what you don't do when you're there? And I started with like we have one of the early don'ts videos, like the don'ts of Barcelona. There's only like 5 don'ts. You know, it was like I didn't think, but then that really resonated with people, and it's kind of morphed now that we'll have like 15 to 20 don'ts, but it's not negative. Like some of them
Right.
are serious, like, hey, don't go to this part of town because it's unsafe, or don't forget to do this. But some of it's actually a do shaped in a don't form. And some of my favorite comments are people that'll go on there like, I came here ready to be mean to you because you said what not to do in my town. But actually, your advice is really good, and that's actually true. And it was really nice how you were very respectful of our culture. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to insult you. I'm not going to, you're not going to see me doing things like, wandering off the path in Yellowstone, ruining stuff, or flying drones where you're not supposed to. No, I'm not going to do that. I want to respect the culture that's there because I want travelers to respect the culture of the place they're going to go. So if you know what not to do, you're better prepared. And so that goes into helping people. And the don'ts, the what not to do, the don't stuff, that really has resonated a lot. Whereas now it's like, if I don't put out a don't video, like YouTube's like, we're not sharing this other stuff. Like that's one of the reasons why we have the Shorts channel, Wolters World Shorts now, and we have Wolters World Eats, is because all of a sudden, like, none of our food videos would go anywhere. They wouldn't do anything. Our short form videos didn't do anything. If we talked about any like shorter advice things, like how to exchange money, it didn't go anywhere, but the don'ts would take off. So I'm like, look, we got to have another avenue so people can find it. So those other channels are starting to get going now, and people are finding like, oh, so when they're looking for tips, the Wolters World Shorts pops up. Well, they want the don'ts and the culture shocks, boom, then Wolters World pops up. So.
Mm-hmm. So I am curious about your experience with YouTube Shorts. Clearly, you've kind of found an avenue that works for you with them. Right. You've decided to put them on a separate channel. Why did you decide to do that instead of putting it on your main channel here?
My fans were very vocal how much they hated them. YouTube very much pushes them on all creators. Like, you need to do this. They're like, it's going to help you get views and stuff, but you make no money on Shorts. Like, you make no money on Shorts at all. They said they're going to monetize them next year, and there's a Shorts fund now they pay out. But my Shorts channel, 18 cents the first day. That's all.
Wow.
Because Shorts, there's no money there because they're not watching for the ads. Whereas the long form videos, and it's not just YouTube. If you look at Instagram, TikTok, how they pay out for those videos, it's a fraction of what a normal traditional horizontal YouTube video is. You're looking at factors of 10 to 100 more when you're having a normal video versus the TikTok vertical kind of things. So I didn't want to. The biggest reason I didn't want to alienate my fans. And I remember I got on TikTok years and years ago, and I'm like, I don't know what kind of content to make it, because back then it was only 15 seconds. I'm like, what do I do in 15 seconds? What can I even say? And so I kind of just poo-pooed it away. And then once YouTube was really like, you have to do shorts, you got to do shorts, you got to do shorts. I'm like, all right. So now you make a short and you put it on YouTube Shorts, you put it on Instagram, you put it on TikTok. So you have 3 different avenues to put it on. So, okay, so you can build other audience and stuff. But I really, because I know for me and how I watch YouTube, I'll watch shorts for a long time as shorts. But I don't like if I'm watching like 15-minute long videos and there's a short that pops up, and then it doesn't fit, right? Mm-hmm. And so like YouTube recently made it so on your main page it'll separate long form videos, shorts, and lives, so people can find the content that way. What's fun is I do the more shorts I've made, the more I like making them, because they're short, quick, and a lot of times, like I had a video out today that went on the short. No, that one actually I put on our. Sometimes I still put a short on the main channel. Like I did one for like vouchers, like the airline vouchers, because that's the one. It's like, look, I want to make sure that I can get the biggest audience possible, because people need to know all the times the airlines say we'll give you vouchers, but you don't realize that sometimes they give you vouchers that are already expired, and so you don't actually get any food, or you don't realize that not all the restaurants at the airport will accept those vouchers either. So that's something that I'm like, look, that's got to go on the main channel, right, or a saved thing. But I just found that, as much as YouTube says, oh, it'll really help your channel grow, I got no benefit out of having shorts on our main channel. We've actually done significantly better on Instagram and TikTok with our shorts than we have on YouTube Shorts. Yeah, which is funny because that's where people mostly know us from. So that's been interesting. That's actually why we started expanding the Shorts channel from just the vertical Shorts video to have our, the tip videos that weren't doing very well on the main channel. They went over there. Hotel reviews, restaurant reviews, airline reviews, airport reviews. those things went there because it doesn't really fit with our main channel. So it became like a catch-all channel. And that's how it got monetized. It didn't get monetized because of the shorts. It got monetized because of the normal videos. And that's one thing you need to realize. If you want to get your channels monetized, you have to figure out the right way to do it. So you do a bunch of lives, because then there's a lot of time there. People watch that counts towards your watch time. Whereas YouTube Shorts, you have to have like, I don't know, like it's an insane number of views. To
so many.
So many. I mean, there's some numbers and some like vidIQ and TubeBuddy and all these were like going through like how much time that really is. You're like, wow, that's like significantly more than what would be for normal YouTube videos. So, but it's been fun to make them. And the thing is now I'm like, I can make this. Like I'm already planning out a whole series for multiple channels just based on shorts for like answering questions from people, focusing on that. Because if you look at the numbers, they're showing that young people are using TikTok as their main search engine to answer questions. So I know if I want to help young travelers, I need to be where they are. Because here's my thing. I want to help you travel if you're 3 or 103. So however I can get that information to you, I'll do that. Like we talk at our public library every year. We give talks on travel, and it's mostly an older crowd, right? And we'll go to the Rotary Club and talk to them about travel. I have that next week, 2 weeks from now. I talk to one of the Rotary Clubs here in Illinois. And it's one of those things. You got to figure out the way to help people or get in touch with your audience. And what blows my mind is people are like, oh, it's only old people like you, Mark, that watch your videos. I'm like, actually, our biggest viewing group is 25 to 35. You know, it's not old farts, that are traveling on their cruise ships. No, like, and it's funny. Like I have college students that are in my class. And they think it's kind of cool now because their channel's gotten big enough. But before they'd always kind of laugh at me. I'm like, hey, if you're going to study abroad, if you want any advice, you want to talk about traveling, just let me know, and I'll come down and visit me. And they're like, haha, whatever. Then they come back from studying abroad, and they're like, everybody knew you, and I got to say that you were my professor, so they were like showing off. I'm like, yeah, but you were too cool to talk to me beforehand.
Wow,
So sometimes
that's awesome. So I'm curious about the before and after of starting your YouTube channel. So no, it's all good. This is all great. It's I just like to interject questions every now and then, and so I'm curious of the before and after of starting your channel. So you have your life, you're teaching in Portugal, you have a normal job, but you've done a lot of traveling. Now you start this channel kind of over time, it starts to take off. Now that you're established on YouTube and this is a big part of your life, how has it changed your outlook on things, your perspective, how you feel when you wake up in the morning? Walk us through that.
Every day when I wake up, I'm thinking what other video I can make. Jocelyn, my wife will tell you we don't go on vacation, we go on trips. Because vacations you relax, and I can't relax. So we go travel. I mean, it's funny. Like the first time, I told you I'm trying to get all those videos ahead of time. The last time I got ahead by a month, I'm like, I'm gonna take February off. I'm gonna get the videos up. I'm like, I won't do anything. No. What I ended up doing was creating a whole nother channel, and ended up making all these new videos for that. Because it was like there's the void, and I'm like, gotta make stuff. And so it's kind of funny. Like I can always tell when I've gotten a lot ahead, and I'm like, now I'm looking for something else I need to do. It's like idle hands at the devil's hands. And so that's one thing. It's true. Like when you make YouTube really part of your life, that's what you think about all the time. Not all the time, but you think about it a lot.
It's
and
true.
So like my wife's like, can we not talk about YouTube today? I'm like, oh, sorry, my bad. So that's one thing. It does become much more there. But one thing I do like about it is there's a nice community. And nowadays, like after the pandemic, people really kind of lost a lot of their friends because everyone kind of had like their bubble of friends they stayed with. And if you were in that bubble, you don't really see them anymore. And this is one thing, like with my students, I've seen that with them. Like, look, you gotta go find new bubbles. You gotta join organizations. You gotta get out there. But when you're in the working world, there's not a lot of there's no student organization to join, right? So the YouTube community, talking to you, Grant, like getting on a podcast, it's like, we've emailed like 3 times, but I still feel like when you said, when I was a full-time YouTuber, like, I'm like, I wanted to, to the heart, man. Yeah, we're together with this, and it's one of those things, you have friends that have gone on that same journey as you. And so that's one thing is like, that's one thing that's made it easier. So I tell people, like, look, there are so many resources out there to help YouTubers be on them, and people want to help each other, which is great, because not every career path do people try to help people that are technically their competition. So that's one thing, because like before I would occasionally think about making videos, but now, I mean, we've done at least 2 videos every week since the summer of 2014.
Wow.
You know, and yeah, and like now we're doing 5 videos a week.
Oh,
Over all the channels, and sometimes it's more than 7 videos a week. Just depends like what we're doing, and it's like, what the hell am I doing? Like, why am I doing all this? But then I'm like, like I have all these questions from people, and I'm like, they need to know this. I want to help them, so I answer their question. But I'll make a little video. Like that's a lot of times with the shorts. It's like those good questions people have. I'm always thinking, okay, let's make a video about this. And so that's one thing it's hard to turn off. Like, it's hard to turn off the creative side. Like, oh, I can make a video here about that, which will loop back to this. Like, I'm going to be in the UK, but I'm going to be there in January, so it's after Christmas, but it'll look like Christmas weather. So I could film next December's Christmas in England videos.
Oh my God,
because
wow.
it'll look, because everything will be down. And it's really sick. Like, I have a problem.
So has that like negatively impacted your life? I mean, in some ways, the way you're talking about it, it seems like there is, but you clearly, like, there's a reason you have a sort of obsession with YouTube that I can relate to, by the way. Like, is there... like, what do you do to kind of deal with that? It sounds like your wife is helpful in kind of keeping you in check and like, hey, let's not talk about YouTube today. And you're like, oh, you're right. That's a good idea. Like, is it just kind of having people around you who are, they have a different perspective? Is there, like, what do you do to kind of deal with this 24/7 on the clock kind of feeling?
Well, one of the things is I will, like, make sure I take time, like, every night I will read to my son. Like we have like class. It's like right now we're reading this. It's a selection of classics. So we'll take out part of Moby Dick and Animal Farm, like all kinds of different stuff. And it was like just read. It's like 2 or 3 chapters to give them an idea of what it's about. And I'm like, look, no, I'm gonna make time for that. I'm gonna do that. It's like during right before the pandemic, my kids and we read the entire How to Train Your Dragon book series, like 13 books. I'm like, I'm gonna make sure I make the time. And that's one of the things is sometimes, like any small business owner, you fall into your job sometimes, and it's hard to pull yourself out. And sometimes you just have to stop yourself. Like this morning, I'm a heavy guy, but I still go to the gym, right? I do my bike classes, I do my weightlifting and stuff. It doesn't show, but underneath the fat, there's something there. But like this morning, I was like, you know what? I need to not go to this morning. Like I'm not going to do my weight class. I'll do like my team training thing with you. Like this morning I just need to take this day and I just need to stop. Because I have so many things, like I have I'm going to go do a talk on doing professional presentations for a master's course. I've got some other things I have to do this afternoon, but I'm like, no, I'm going to take a break today. Just this morning. And sometimes it's just taking like an hour or two. And literally I got up this morning, 5 o'clock, and I'm not one of those people that gets up at 5 o'clock because I want to get up at 5 o'clock and run a marathon, and read a book and all that BS people say. No, I get up at 5 o'clock because I'm 45 years old and I got to take a piss. Okay. So then it's 5 and I'm like, my wife's sleeping away. I'm like, well, I could listen to YouTube or I could think, and I'm like, or I could go edit, And so this morning I was like, no, I went down, made my kids some pancakes so when he got up for school, they'd be ready, and helped him get out the door. And I'm like, I'm just going to lay here and play Retro Bowl on my phone and watch the latest episode of Andor on Disney Plus. And I'm just going to take that time. And it was funny. Just today when I was watching Andor, I'm like, Disney Plus doesn't let me watch it and do something else at the same time like YouTube does. I'm like, well, that's not very nice of them. I wanted to do other things while I was watching, And so then it was funny because then after a while I'm like, yeah, no, it's good that Disney Plus forces me not to do other things. I have to focus just on that. So that was kind of funny. But it has. Thanks, Mickey.
Very wholesome of Disney.
Very wholesome. Very wholesome. No, but that's one of those things. And it's tough because sometimes you don't realize you're doing it. That was one thing I think when I started. Like when you talk about difference between before and after, I would make like 12 different videos because I didn't know what would work. I would make, like if we're in Paris, I'm going to make how to speak French, basic French verbs, top 10 sites in Paris, what not to do in Paris, safety in Paris, kids in Paris. I do anything. Like, I don't know what's going to work. And now I'm like, no, we're going to make the don'ts for the main channel. We're going to make what you eat when you're there for the food channel. Then I'm going to do a few shorts for the shorts channel. And then if I have some business topics, I'll throw in a couple business videos. But it's like it's kind of like, instead of being like 20 videos, it's 5. And by doing that, it allows me that my filming schedule is I will get up in the morning and I'll go film early in the morning because people aren't out. The only thing I have to deal with is the bells and the garbage trucks. Or in Savannah this last week when I was filming, the leaf blowers, right? So you find a place that's quiet, you film, because by 10 o'clock, then the city's alive and it's too loud and everything. So I'm filming, I'm back at the hotel before 10 o'clock, having filmed those 5 videos. So now I can spend the day just going out with the kids, and my wife. And that is different. Whereas before I'd be filming like, okay, you guys play in the park for a while, I'm going to make some videos. Whereas now it's like, oh, we can all go play in the park because I've already finished my videos. And I think that's one of the things, that time management, how I do that, is so different than it was when I first started.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Yeah, I'm glad you were able to kind of work it into your schedule. And that is one nice thing about YouTube, or just kind of having your own online presence, is at the end of the day, you do get to set your own schedule. It can be a pitfall with the 24/7 feeling that we've talked about, but at some point you can make it work and really fit it in ways that flow well with your life. Whereas like a more normal job, that can be harder to do. You kind of have to work around it versus the other way around. So my next question for you, and this is kind of a generic question, but I always like to ask it, is if you could give one piece of advice for succeeding on YouTube, what would it be?
There's 2 things I always like to tell people, so I'll give one of them, and then I'll give the other one later.
Sure.
I think the one I already gave is learn how to delegate. It's okay to let go, whether it's an editor, where someone helped me with thumbnails or stuff, like that. Thumbnails, I still haven't gotten people to do that for me. Like, I still can't let go. It's like we could, it's okay to let go, right? And sometimes that letting go is letting someone else do the editing, or letting someone else, record you or film, whatever. But it's okay to let that go. But also it's okay to let go of certain videos that you used to make. Like stopping doing those top 10 lists, I was like, but I have to make a top 10 sites to see list because everybody wants to know the top 10 sites. Yeah, but there's always so much of that out there. Like stopping myself from doing that was tough. But actually, was the most tough was stopping making the language videos, because those were one of the first videos that were kind of popular on our channel. It was basically Germans were watching foreign language videos, like how to learn Portuguese if you're a German speaker. I was making videos like that. And those were our first big audience, was Germany, right? And when I was like, I've got to stop making those because that's not where the growth's going to be. Like letting that go was really tough, but you got to learn how to let go and stop. Okay. And so that would be one thing I would say.
Yeah, sure. That's a good answer. I think letting go, that's something I've struggled with over the years, is just kind of being able to chill out a bit and not get too attached, especially if I think there could be a weird appeal to wanting to follow the crowd. Like you mentioned, the top 10 videos or something. That is a popular style of video in all genres across YouTube, I find. Yeah. And I think there can be a fear. Did you know? Yeah, exactly. And it's like by deviating from that, it can feel like a risk, or like you're going against the grain or something. But in your case, it worked out beautifully. It worked out really well. And I think if people are willing to just let go and do what they feel like doing, they may end up hitting on something that works way better than if they had just gone and done the gold standard, so to speak.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, 100%.
Mm-hmm. And I am curious about your second piece of advice.
It takes time. This is not overnight. No, anyone that says they were lucky on YouTube are lying. It is a lot of work. This is not a one-time thing. I think this is one thing a lot of people thought when the pandemic came, they're going to go van life, or we're going to podcast, or we're going to do whatever. You had all these people that started doing it, and then after a few months, they realized, I'm not making any money, or I'm not making enough money. How are these people doing this? Well, they've spent years building up an audience, and it doesn't happen right away. Mm-hmm. So if you want to start a YouTube channel, don't think that you're going to be retiring on that in 2 years or 1 year. Think about where you're going to be Like think 4 or 5 years down the road. Is this something you can consistently make content for 4 or 5 years? Because if all you're going to do is make a set of videos about the Qatar World Cup, which is this November, well, no one's going to care once you hit the December 15th after it's done. You know, like, like that's not something, like you want to think more like, okay, let's think of major soccer championships channel. Okay, so we talk about the World Cup, the European Cup, the Libertadores Cup, like that gives you more content over and over again. But the time thing is like when I tell people we didn't make money for the first 4 years, they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, I did it for fun. It was never about the money." They're like, "Oh, well, you got this." I'm like, "Yeah, but that's now." But then, if I would have been about money, we would have stopped in 2012.
Yeah.
And we'd never have done this. So that's one thing, and that's why it's always nice to like do things that you enjoy. Like we have a food channel, and as a husky fellow, I love food. We have 2 travel channels, which are travels I love. I have my business training channel, and I love teaching. That's my job, my day job. And then my son has a channel, and he likes to do like fun, like food ranking videos. And I'm like, and that's a video he and I watch together. So sometimes we make those videos together, So it's a way that we get to spend time together. So it's like a fun thing, And if you have that, it goes back to you don't feel like you're working because it's not work, blah blah blah. But it's not. It's something you enjoy doing. So that's why people are like, well, does YouTube take away from your other priorities? I'm like, does playing golf take away from your priorities? Does walking your dog, because that's something you enjoy doing? No, it doesn't. This is a whole other thing. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, I like your advice. I feel like you just having lived the YouTube experience or whatever you want to call it for so long, like clearly you know what you're talking about here. So we're getting towards the end of the hour here, and we're going to wrap up. My last question for you is, what is next? Like you seem like a guy who's always thinking about, what do I want to do next? What is your kind of next horizon, so to speak?
So right now I'm focusing more on developing that food channel. If I look like at the tactics, like medium term, because our food channel has really started to take off the last 3 months. Like we're getting your channel's up 543%. It's like, oh,
awesome.
Oh, like that's we finally caught on. I'm like, it's funny because our food videos we were putting on Wolters World are doing worse than our food videos on our new Wolters World each channel. One's almost got 1 million subs and one has 10,000. I was like, okay, that's where there's future. But also, I was in the Washington Post the other day, and they were talking about the travel channel and how there's no travel anymore. I'm like, well, yeah. Think about it. People travel once or twice a year. They want to be entertained every day. So the ghost shows are entertaining. So people are entertained. They like watch it every day, but you're not going to watch about Spain if you're not going to go there, right? And so it's the same thing here. I'm like, look, food channel, people eat 3 times a day. They travel once a year. So that might be one that's a little bit more we can do more stuff or have more, I guess you say, evergreen content coming out. So that's one thing I'm kind of focusing on. But another thing I want to do, this is one I've just started to work on, because on my business channel, I have all the videos for all like if you want to learn social media marketing or principles of marketing or advanced marketing management, these are typical college level marketing courses. I have the entire courses already filmed. Like I filmed it all. It's all on my website, professorwolters.com, right? But now I'm seeing the things that students are missing. Like when people say, well, the school should teach them, about personal finance. It should teach them about checkbook. It should teach them how to be an adult, that kind of stuff. And I'm getting from students as well. It's like, we don't learn any of this. We don't know anything when we're coming out. Like we know how to do the accounting for the company, but what about real life things? And so I want to, for Professor Wolters, this is one thing I want to go. This is something that we're going to be working on, like I would say, like the first half of next year, to start releasing probably in the summer of next year, is all this stuff about helping college students and high school students with their transition from leaving their parents' house to being adults. Yeah, and there are adults, but like, being an on your own adult kind of thing that no one talks about it anymore. Because parents think the schools are going to do it, the schools maybe think the parents are going to do it, then nobody does it, and then you're kind of coming out going, I graduated college and my parents drive a BMW, so I should drive a BMW, and they buy one, and you're like, dude, you just got out of college. Your parents been working for 30 years. Like, you're not in the same financial bracket as they are. They're not the same tax bracket. You need to learn that. But no one tells people that. So we want to take that honest advice and put it that, hey, if you want to do well, or if you want just to know things in a way that isn't one condescending, because there's so many helpful channels that are just like, well, you don't know how to do this. Let me show you. It's like, no, in a nice, people say we're wholesome. I don't know if they say we're wholesome since I drink beer in like every video. But it's stuff that you wouldn't be ashamed, like if a parent sees something to send to their kid, right? Because like we have a lot of schools that actually use our videos to, like German classes, Spanish classes, to show our videos in their class to help them out. It's like, this is something I would like to do. Like one of my favorite classes I teach to my students, I would do like 18 things I wish I would have known when I finished college. Like these things, like how to budget, how to ask for a raise, how do you tell your boss no? Things like that that no one would ever teach you. These are kind of things that I see as kind of a new path from that channel to kind of grow it in a different way.
Mm-hmm. That sounds awesome. And I respect how many different avenues you have. You seem like a balanced guy. You're not just doing one thing. You have all these channels. Like it seems like every new thing you do is like tangential, but different. It's and I respect that. It makes sense, and I'm sure it feels good too. You kind of have multiple outlets. I'm sure some days this one thing is really stressful, and then other days it's like the thing you look forward to the most. And I'm sure it's nice to kind of have that balance as well.
Yeah. And for any of you, when you do like the batch filming, like when you get a bunch of ideas at one time, and then you could just like knock them out, boom, boom, boom. You're like, I just filled 2 months of stuff in one day. Like you're like, how did I just do that? Like you literally will have those days where you're so excited. Like I had one where I was that morning in Toronto, I ended up knocking out something like 15 videos.
Wow.
And I was just going to make the Don'ts of Toronto and then like a review of my train ride from Montreal. Like I was only going out for a little. Then I'm like, yeah, this is a nice shot. I got the CN Tower behind me. Let's do it. And it's just like boom, boom, boom. And then I looked on my thing, and I mean, literally the back of my book. Oh, also, always list all the videos that you film. Have it in paper and in on your phone. But like, Toronto is this entire. I'll show a sheet about 20 things I filmed just that day. That was that morning. And I was going like, oh. So my editors, I told them like, oh, you'll get like 5 or 6 videos from me on this trip. They're getting probably 35.
Oh, dang.
I'm like, wow, I could get Wolters World Shorts done through like April. Oh my gosh. So
dang. Yeah, riding those energy waves is definitely a good call. It seems like it has worked out. So Mark, this has been awesome. I love your perspective. I really appreciate talking to you, and thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing.
Well, I appreciate you inviting me, Grant. It was fun. Hope we can do this again someday.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't you tell people kind of where they can find you, pitch all your other channels? We've kind of talked about most everything, but it's always good to have a reminder, huh?
Okay, so if you want to find us on our main travel channel, you're going to go to Wolters World on YouTube, and that's WOLTERS World. And if you want to find about food around the world, it's Wolters World Eats. If you want short little travel tips, you can go to Wolters World Shorts. If you want to learn about business and marketing, social media, basically if you're a small business owner, all kinds of stuff to help you out, you can go to our Professor Wolters channel, and we have stuff to help you there. You can also check us out at our 2 websites, woltersworld.com for travel and professorwolters.com for business and marketing and education.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and of course at Wolters World on every single social media channel you can think of.
There you have it, everybody. Mark Wolters of Wolters World. Check him out. You will not be disappointed. And whoever you are, thank you so much for watching, for listening, all that good stuff. I will see you in the next one.